possible exception of a ticket for parking or passing a red light, most people go through life without a brush for the law. But there is a very small minority who seem to devote their entire careers to hating cops and statute books. They usually matriculate at San Quentin, then take a postgraduate course in Leavenworth. And some of them end up in a death house due to a slight case of murder.
That's the Fat Man, Dashiell Hammett's fascinating and exciting character. A fast-moving criminologist who tips the scales at 237 pounds. Ranks the flat.
The lady was attractive in a distinctly unusual way. She was the kind of a woman who could make a 2350 dress look like an original Schiaparelli. But the gown she wore didn't come from any bargain basement. She walked into my office and sat down very quietly in a chair in front of my desk. Then she glanced at her impeccably manicured fingernails for a moment and began to talk.
My name is Cynthia Pryor. I was told that the Fat Man was the best private detective in town.
I'll take the bow, sitting down.
I imagine you're handy with a revolver. But are you tactful?
I don't embarrass my clients, if that's what you mean.
I have a case for you, Mr. Runyon. A case of blackmail.
Who's being squeezed? And who's doing the squeezing?
A man named George Brandon. He's demanding money from me.
Why?
We've been friends up to now, but he threatened to tell my husband that his friendship was more than a passing fancy.
How did you meet up with this guy?
Oh, it was accidental in a cocktail lounge. I dropped my purse and he...
Picked you both up.
Mr. Runyon.
No offense intended. I just like my story straight and to the point, that's all.
Well, at any rate, he's demanding $20,000.
George is no piker.
My husband is rich, but I don't have that much money of my own. I could never get it. Besides, if I give in to George now, it may not be his last demand.
Well, why don't you tell your husband? That seems to be the best way out, if you really have nothing to hide.
Oh, Harold would never believe me. He wanted a divorce. And, well, I love him much too much to take the chance.
So, in that case, I guess we'll go up and see George.
Will you?
Sure. You're coming along. We'll have to talk him out of it, and I'll need your help.
All right. When can we see him?
Well, now is as good a time as any.
I'm ready, Mr. Runyon. Oh, here's your fee in advance. What are you doing?
Checking my gun.
Will there be trouble?
In a case like this, Mrs. Pryor, there usually is. We drove to a 3-story white stone house in the 70s. One of those remodeled old mansions that were turned into apartments. George Brandon's name was over a mail slot together with his floor number. And Mrs. Pryor and I started walking upstairs. You've been here before?
Oh, once or twice. George has the flat on the second floor.
Has your husband ever seen this guy at all?
Not that I know of, Mr. Runyon. There he is.
He seems to be out.
Well, he couldn't be. I spoke to him just before I came to see you. I told him to wait for my call. There's usually a key under that doormat.
Yeah, you're right. There's one here now. Does he do that often?
What?
Leave his key for you?
Mr. Runyon, I swear that my relationship with George was purely platonic. It was when he tried to draw me into something closer, like leaving keys under doormats so that I could come in when I pleased, that I tried to break away from him.
Well, we may as well wait for him inside where it's comfortable.
He's coming!
Yeah. Looks as if someone got to your conniving boyfriend before we did. He's got at least 4 bullets in his chest.
But that's not George Brandon.
Huh?
It's my husband.
I put in a call to Lieutenant McKenzie and went through the flat while I waited for him to arrive. Mrs. Pryor just sat there. She'd been hit by a mallet. George Brandon must have been pretty successful in his racket, judging by his wardrobe. His dresser drawers were filled with monogrammed shirts from Fifth Avenue men's shops, and his closets were jammed with snappy suits. There was a brand new suitcase with his initials on it in his bedroom, was open, but it hadn't been filled. I brought that point up to Mackenzie after he'd gone through the usual routine.
Now, what does this guy Brandon look like, Mrs. Pryor?
Tall and heavy set.
Mm-hmm.
Brown hair and brown eyes. A scar on his left hand.
Sure.
I don't know what else to tell you.
You feeling all right?
Yes, I just need to know.
She called a friend of her husband's, Mac. A man named Lucius Farr. He's coming down to take her home.
Well, just one more question, Mrs. Pryor. Would you know where Brandon might be right now?
I haven't the slightest idea.
Oh, that suitcase inside, Mac. It looks as though it was open to be packed.
It's a cinch he won't be back to finish the job. I'll take that. Yes? What? All right. Hold on to it. If Brandon shows up, don't tell him you called here. This is Detective Lieutenant Mackenzie speaking. Police Homicide Bureau. Give Brandon his ticket and alert the airport police. We'll be there before his plane takes off.
What's up, Mac?
That was the Airport Reservation Bureau. They're calling to verify a ticket reservation they're holding for George Brandon on the 7 o'clock plane to San Francisco.
Think you'll walk into your arms?
Then we might. Joe, Johnny, get that body out of here.
Okay, Lieutenant.
Doc Prentice is waiting at the morgue to make an autopsy. Get in touch with me later, Brand. I'll tell you what goes.
Okay, Mac.
Easy now.
Feeling better, Mrs. Pryor?
Yes, I feel a little stronger.
You'll have to identify George Brandon if they have him.
What, tonight?
Maybe.
Well, I don't think I'm up to it, Mr. Runyon. I feel a little hard. Oh.
Mrs. Pryor. I grabbed her as she started to sink to the floor in a faint and carried her to the couch. She was out like a light, and it took me 5 minutes to bring her around. When she came to, she started to cry. And I was relieved when her friend Lucius Farr showed up. He's the promoter type. Big deals, big money, and big head. And he purred over Cynthia Pryor like a cat over a kitten.
Cynthia, my dear. I have never been so shocked in all my life.
He was shot, Lucius. It was cold-blooded murder.
What was Harold doing in this apartment? Who lives here?
A guy named Brandon. Ever hear of him?
Brandon? No.
George and Lucius never met.
Was he a friend of Harold's?
I wouldn't call pumping 4 bullets into a man a gesture of friendship.
Cynthia, I am going to take you home.
You'd better remain at home where I can reach you, Mrs. Pryor.
Very well, Mr. Runyon.
And incidentally, you'd better give me that key to this apartment. The police may want to come back and have another look around. Oh, by the way, Mr. Farr, how well did you know Harold Pryor?
Well,
Why, Lucius has known both of us for years, Mr. Runyon.
Yes, I have done quite a bit of business with Mr. Pryor. I feel his loss very deeply in more ways than one. I certainly hope you put your hands on that killer, Runyon. I'd like to be there in the death house myself when Harold's killer is electrocuted.
You never can tell, Mr. Farr. Sometimes it can be arranged. It was 8 o'clock by the time I got back to my own apartment. And I thought I'd give Lieutenant Mackenzie a call. He told me George Brandon never showed to pick up his ticket, and they were spreading a dragnet through the city from borough to borough. When I hung up, I started to read the papers. Somehow, I just couldn't concentrate on the news. The case seemed open and shut to practically everyone, including myself. Yet, there was something that bothered me, and I couldn't put my finger on it. I was going over Brandon's apartment once again in my mind when my doorbell rang, and I found I had an unexpected visitor who was rather easy on the eyes.
You the fat man?
Yeah, Runyon's the name.
I'm Eloise Wilson. I was Mr. Pryor's private secretary.
Oh. Come in.
Thank you. I heard about that. Mr. Pryor's death a little while ago when I called his home. Mrs. Pryor told me what happened.
Yeah?
A man named Lucius Farr was just leaving Mrs. Pryor when I spoke to her on the phone. Have you met him, Mr. Runyon?
Yeah. An hour or two ago.
There's something I think you ought to know about Mr. Farr.
Is there?
He went into several business deals with Mr. Pryor. One of the deals, the last one they made, turned out rather badly.
For whom?
Mr. Pryor lost a lot of money. Wasn't much for him, of course, he was so rich. But it was what he discovered about Mr. Farr that hurt the most.
What was that?
Lucius Farr had misrepresented himself. Mr. Pryor lost his money because he'd been swindled. Well?
Well, what?
Doesn't that ring any bells?
One or two dull ones.
What do you mean?
Are you trying to put Lucius Farr in a chair, Miss Wilson?
I'm only telling you what I know.
The police are convinced the killer's a man named George Brandon.
Who's George Brandon?
Just a guy who's in hot water at the moment.
What are you staring at?
Your clothes.
Well, what about them?
It's a nice coat you have on. That kind of fur doesn't run into less than 4 fat figures. How much do private secretaries get these days? 50,000?
What are you driving at?
I was just thinking. Excuse me, sweetheart. Sit down. Make yourself at home. Hello.
Mr. Runyon, this is Sylvia Pryor.
They haven't found George Brandon
I
yet.
know they have. He called me a little while ago and asked for money.
Where did he call
He
from?
didn't say, but I told him to come over and get it. I pretended I knew nothing about the murder. Now I'm frightened. I'm alone in the house. You've got to get over here immediately.
Well, how long ago did you speak to
Just
him?
before I called you.
Well, maybe farther away from your place than I am. I'll drive over as fast as I can. Huh? Hello?
George, no.
Mrs. Pryor. Hello? Hello?
George.
And now let's catch up with the Batman. I decided I'd better look into this David Parker thing. So I found out from Marie where he lived and checked there first. He hadn't gotten home from work yet, and I was sent to a neighborhood restaurant where he usually ate. But he hadn't been seen there either. So I called it a day. The next morning, I went over to the plant where he worked. David Clark was not there. Nor had he been there the day before. Not so good for Mr. Clark. I went down to my office and was about to call the police to put out the dragnet when the phone rang in my office. Morning, talking.
This is Marie. Marie Gerard. I've got to see you.
What's up, Marie?
I can't tell you over the phone, could you come down here?
I'll hop a cab right away. Marie, have you heard anything from Dave Clark?
No. I don't know where he is.
Have you tried to reach him?
Yes? He didn't get home last night.
Yeah, I know.
Mr. Runyon, I'm frightened.
Okay, I'll be right over. It was raining outside, and my car was put up for the night, and I couldn't get a cab. By the time I'd crossed the subway crowd and finally walked from the square to the truck stop, nearly an hour had gone by. I opened the door to the shop. There was nobody around. I called, there was no answer. Nothing but those clocks ticking. All of a sudden, I got a funny smell. Gas. Coming from the room back to the shop. I dashed back there and into the sitting room. There was Marie lying on the couch and gas pouring out of a heater by the wall. Everything was shut up tight. I made a quick dive for the window. I picked up Marie, and after a few gulps of fresh air, she came to. What are you trying to do? Commit suicide, turning on the heater with the window shut?
But I didn't turn it on.
You didn't?
No. I'm sure I didn't. I remember I was a little cool, but
Well, who did turn it on then?
I don't know.
Now, look, Marie. Count 10 and tell me exactly what happened. Don't skip a thing.
Well, after I phoned you, I felt a little tired. I didn't get much sleep last night thinking about Papa, so I thought I'd lie down a while.
Is anybody here?
Well, Aldo was in here to ask if he could do anything, and of course that's police. But they both left. So I lay down on the couch and falling asleep, that's it.
Did you hear anyone come in?
I thought I heard the shop bell once, just faintly, but maybe I was dreaming. That's all I remember, till you were holding me by the open window.
What was it you told me about?
It was about that grandfather's clock, Mr. Runyon.
What about it?
Come out in the shop, I'll show you. Look,
It's raining again.
it was running this morning.
Did you start it?
No, I never touched it.
Well, somebody did. Because somebody's put that other counterweight back. Murderous little weapon, isn't it? He's 6'2", and even you won't find a print on it.
Mr. Runyon, what does it mean?
I don't know yet.
First Papa and Sam and the gas. I don't understand it.
Marie, that wasn't an accident. Somebody knew you called me. Decided they had more to do.
Marie?
David. Oh, Dave, where have you been? I've been trying to...
Oh, darling, I just got back.
You've heard about Papa.
Yes. Marie, I'm so sorry.
I know. I know you are. Oh, David, this is Mr. Runyon, Brad Runyon.
Oh, I've heard about you, Mr. Runyon.
Yeah, and I've heard about you, too. Where'd you disappear to yesterday?
I was out of town.
I don't suppose you object to telling us where you were.
Mr. Runyon?
Look, Marie, you happen to be in love with a guy, but the cops aren't, and neither am I, until I know why you took a powder on us yesterday.
He's right, honey. He's got to question everybody. The only trouble, Mr. Runyon, I'm not going to tell you.
Oh, that's the way it is.
That's the way it is.
Look here, young fella, you're coming with me, and you're going to talk. Or you're going to try on a pair of bracelets that didn't come from Tiffany.
Oh, Mr. Runyon, no.
You stay here, Marie. I'll be back soon. Well, David Clark talked. He said he'd gone out of town on an errand for Papa Gerard. Papa wanted him to see about a place for Aunt Felice to live with a family out in the country. Because after David and Marie were married and came to live in the shop, there'd be no room for Felice. So I sent him home, making it clear he'd better stay there. And suddenly, something clicked. He didn't know it, but while he was talking, for the first time, I saw a motive. I went back to the shop.
Oh, Mr. Runyon, is there something you want?
Not a thing, mademoiselle. Just thought I'd stop in and see how Marie was feeling.
She's in the back. I was just going out to do my marketing.
Well, you go right ahead.
Monsieur, have you found out anything yet about my poor brother?
Yeah, it takes time. Mademoiselle, you sure you didn't mean something yesterday when you said he killed him?
Oh, no, I don't know why I said it. The shock. One is not young anymore, monsieur, and things come into the head. Oh, monsieur, if only these clocks could talk. All those faces, every one of them. Oh.
Sometimes clocks do talk, mademoiselle. Well, I'm going back to Marie. Hello, Marie.
Mr. Runyon, where's David?
I came home. I wanted to see you alone. Marie, how game are you?
What do you mean?
Well, I've got to force the murderer's hand. The only way to do it is to use you as bait.
What do you want me to do, Mr. Runyon?
The same as you always do. Close up the shop, put out the lights, go to bed. The only difference, leave the door to the shop unlocked. I'm coming in.
Why?
I want to give the killer a chance to operate. But don't fall asleep. And if you hear anything in your room, yell your head off. What about it?
I'll do it. Whatever you say.
That night I called David Clark and told him to meet me. We went to the shop and waited outside till the lights went out. And Marie and her aunt had gone to bed. I tried the door. It was unlocked the way I'd told her to leave it. Now wait here, Philip. Let me get a hold of that bell. You go ahead. You go in. I'll shut the door. You go over behind the counter and don't fall over anything. Yes, enough. Right here.
I can't see a thing.
No, you don't need to. Listen. Remember, I have a gun, and I know how to use it.
You still don't think that I
Don't
did.
talk. And don't move. It's in the football for an hour. And it's pitch dark. There's nothing but those clocks. I began to feel a little uneasy. I knew this was playing with dynamite. And all of a sudden,
Mr. Runyon, somebody's coming.
you know, stay in the house. There wasn't a sound. Was it my view roll around that shop like a cat? I turned to David. He was gone.
Mr. Runyon! Mr. Runyon! Help, Mr. Runyon! Somebody's in the room!
Where are the lights?
The switch beside the door. David. It's David.
Marie.
Stay where you are. I told you I had a gun.
Mr. Runyon, David's got the weight from the clock.
Okay, mister. Talk and talk fast. What are you doing with that lead weight?
I stumbled over it when I ran in here. I picked it up.
Why did you come back here? I told you to stay with me.
I got scared for Marie when I heard that bell. I came to see if she was all right. Somebody else was in the room and must have run out when I came in.
Did you see who it was?
No.
Oh, David. It was that weight from the clock that was used to kill Papa.
What's wrong? Mr. Onion, what's wrong?
Aldo,
What are you doing here, Aldo?
I hear the signorina scream. Like before, I run in.
You're a little sudden, aren't you?
No.
Mr. Onion, that's Police. Why hasn't she waked up? Do you suppose she's all right?
Where's your room?
Right there, down the hall.
Come on.
Oh, there she is. She's asleep.
He's not asleep, Marie. Pull back the covers.
The cover.
Yeah, like this.
She's dressed.
Yep. Fully dressed. And as wide awake as you are. Okay, mademoiselle, you can open your eyes. It's the end of the line.
Yes. Then you know.
Yeah. I've known ever since this afternoon.
Mr. Onion, you mean Aunt Police killed Papa?
That's right. She's the one, Marie.
No, I can't believe it. Why? I'll tell you why. Because he was putting me out of my home. Because he was sending me away. After all these years I've lived here. But we thought you'd like to live in the canoe where all against me, every one of you. Just take away the only thing I had. You didn't know. No.
Yeah. She thought she was fighting for her home. Played on her till something snapped. They'll put her away, Marie.
But how did you know?
I didn't know, except something she said yesterday didn't seem to fit.
What did she say?
She said he killed him. But she came back from the market.
Oh, yes.
All we told her was that Papa Gerard was killed. That doesn't mean murder. He might have been hit by a car or something falling off a building. How did she know he'd been murdered? Nobody told her. And when I found out why Dave went out of town, it suddenly added up.
Then it was Aunt Police in my room just now.
Yeah. After she'd gone in the shop and opened the door to make it look like somebody from the outside. And it was Aunt Police who turned on the gas when you were sleeping and planted the cigarette case of Dave.
And she's the one who dropped the clock weight in Marie's room.
Yeah. David, go put in a call from Mackenzie at police headquarters.
I can't believe it. She's like someone I never saw before. Mr. Onion, what did this to her?
It's a funny thing, the human mind, Marie. Like those clocks inside, it's a pretty delicate piece of work. You wind it up too tight, and sometimes something snaps.